Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Have you used this site before?
Yes, I have.
Awesome. Cool. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my headphones working right now. It's on Bluetooth. Sorry for the delay. I just want to test something real quick.
Uh-huh.
What's going on? Okay, I won't worry about that right now. I don't want to hold you up. I guess I'll just jump straight into the technical questions since you're already familiar with the site and all.
Uh-huh.
So why don't you go ahead and choose a programming language you feel most comfortable in?
Sure.
Cool. C++.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my question for you is basically, given a list of positive whole numbers with no duplicates, how would you go
Okay.
about finding any two numbers in that list that sum up to a given target number? So let's say your list is like 3, 5, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 4, 2, 1, 30. And target is 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Not return, but you can just print. So this will make it easier when we write tests. So yeah, that's the question. Feel free to ask me like any questions you have or any kind of clarifications you need.
Sure. So just to make sure I heard it correctly, you say that this is a list of positive whole numbers, right?
Yeah, these are going to be all positive whole numbers with no duplicates.
Mm-hmm. With no duplicates. Okay. So one approach could be that we take a hash table and as we start iterating over each of the elements, we check if the whatever is the remainder, which is less. So, for example, if I was at 6, I check in my hash table if 9 is already there or not. If it is not, then I add 6 into it, and then move on. And then, say for example, I was at 9 in the list, and I check again in the hash table if 6 is available, and because 6 is available, I would say that this is the pair, and I will print that out. So basically, as I visit a node, I check in my hash table if the remainder value is there in the hash table. If it is not, then I'll move ahead. I'll basically insert that element and then move ahead.
Okay, so that sounds like a valid solution to me. Can you describe to me the space and time complexity that this would have?
So the space complexity would be, in the worst case, order n, because if the last element is one of that element that makes up the pair, which sums up to 15, then you'll have to go all the way to the end. And as you're traversing, you're always adding elements into the hash table. And then the time complexity would also be order n because we have to visit each node. We are basically visiting each element in the linked list exactly once.
Exactly. Cool. So that makes sense to me. And so okay, so that's fine. That makes sense. And so like one thing I would say at this point is you definitely found the optimized solution for time, but it's not the optimized solution for space. So how would you change your answer to optimize for space instead of time?
Okay. So this is a linked list, right?
Sorry, what was that?
So the input would be a linked list. Is that correct?
Yeah. You're going to zoom it with a linked list. Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry, what was the last statement you said?
Yeah, it is a linked list.
Okay. And let's say it's a singly linked list, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so to optimize on the space, one of the ways could be potentially to resort the list itself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sort the list, let's just think about it.
Sure, yeah, take your time.
Yeah. So, yeah, so,
Yeah, and you don't want to overthink this either. Yeah, imagine like if you're optimizing for like basically any kind of in-space solution would be optimized that doesn't use any extra space.
The cost of time complexity.
Yeah, but here I just want to hear like what you would do to keep the memory in space, so you don't use any kind of like extra variable.
So, yeah. So I mean, one solution would have been to, sort the input, and then as you visit each of the nodes, you do a binary search on the whatever is remaining ahead of you. But given that this is a linked list, I'm just thinking how binary search would really work in this case because it's not contiguous memory, right? So it's pointers pointing to each other. And another.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, sorry.
Oh, okay, sure. Sorry, I thought it might have.
No. So let's see if you have. So one other, like, if the only thing that mattered to me, for example, was space complexity, then I'll visit each node and then I'll go and search into the remainder of the list as it is without even sorting it, and then try to find the remainder. I mean, that's the brute force solution, but it will be order n square in terms of time complexity, but memory would be constant because we're not pretty much using any extra memory.
Yeah. So for this problem, that is fine for in space. Like if we want to optimize for in space and it's already, if we want to optimize for space and it's already an in space solution, that's fine. The main reason I was asking you is because I think you did a good job of immediately figuring out the optimized runtime solution. But generally, I think it's good to clarify with your interviewer like what they're looking for, because there's usually trade-off in software, like whether you want to do something faster or whether you want to use less memory. So that was the only kind of point that I was hoping to make.
Oh, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but I really love the solution you came up with, and that's definitely a good way to go for optimizing runtime. So more than happy to see you code it out now.
Okay, so should I code up the first one, the one where the space complexity is order n and the runtime is also order n?
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay, cool.
If you don't mind me asking, what kind of software do you work on?
I work on big data systems. Um, so, so my company has an in-house um, MapReduce kind of a system, our
Oh,
own
that's
version
cool.
of Hadoop. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
The C++ makes more sense to me now.
Yeah. Yeah, I get this asked very often, like, I sure you want to type it out in C++. I'm like, yeah, probably I'll just do this. I can do C sharp, but lately I've been writing. I mean, I guess try both. Uh, but I'm more familiar with multi-threading concepts in C++ as compared to C sharp.
hmm Yeah. No, no, sure. Sure. It's C++ is fine. Excuse me.
Sure.
Thank you.
I wish my phone is ringing. Okay. Let me just walk through the code to make sure I'm doing what I want it to do.
Sure, sure.
So I'm just curious, like, what should the return value be in case we're not able to find it there?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. So I think the best would be if we just print out the the tuple, so like the two numbers, something like 6 and 9 or 1 and 30, just like I did on line 37. That way, as a next step to this problem, I like to see like kind of what test cases you'll write, and then we can just run the program and see all the outputs and see whether they're what we want.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant like in case we are not able to find the pair of the numbers, in that case, what
okay.
should be B on the method?
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's a good question. So yeah, in that scenario, you can just write, or you could just print out no numbers or no tuple, no valid tuple found. I'll put it at the bottom.
Okay.
No valid tuple found. Yep.
Okay. So I just want to run the program in my head quickly.
Sure.
So in this case, in the input, if I had the same. Oh wait, I'm sorry. You meant list, right? Not the array. I think I completely.
Yeah, I meant list. Yeah. Also, it looks like these are all related to the change you just made. Yep. Oh, but there you go.
Yeah, I didn't really make any change that. No. Yeah, I just had to include the list. I completely forgot.
Yeah.
My was just an array.
So it looks like you have get some target. Do you want to try it with the test case on line 39?
Yes. Give me a moment quickly just to see how they're going to
Oh yeah,
run.
Sure.
So I have these numbers 369. So let's say 3 is less than 15. We got the numbers to find 15 minus 3 would be 12. 12 is I come out and insert the number. Then I come again. 6, 9 doesn't exist. I'll add 9 and then I'll look at 9 and 6 exists. So my dot first would be 15 minus 9 equal to 6. And then the second 9 is equal to 2. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of okay. And in case we have 0 as one of the number, that also should be handled because, and then if a that should be also handled because even if, let's say the n at 913 was 15 itself, will still come inside the loop, so that's good. Okay. So what we can do now is so you gave me a list, right?
Nice.
Let's see if that works. Okay, it does. And then what I'm going to do is
Yeah, and keep in mind it would be best if it prints out a valid solution or invalid solution, so then we can see multiple results at the same time.
right. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, do you want me to give any other input to the method?
Yeah, so my suggestion was actually going to be, why don't you go ahead and refactor this in the way you think is best so that you could write maybe 4 or 5 test cases that cover all possible kind of cases and outcomes.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, this should print it out. We can test out a bunch of input values this way.
Sure, sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to write more print pairs with like maybe a different target input or like an invalid case, that kind of thing?
Okay, sure. So, here's some boundary cases like 31. Then, is there a data in there? No, right? So, yeah. What happens if I pass in a negative number in that case? What would happen? Yeah, I think you can try. Another one would be.
Yeah. It's good that you're trying a negative number as the target number, because I definitely did mention that the input list will be valid, but I never said the target number would be like, a valid whole positive number. So
Right.
good things to talk to your interviewer about, definitely.
Cool. Now let's see a number that doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Okay. 6, 9, 1, and 30. Okay. This didn't work. -1. Okay. So I guess I need to see why 0 and 30.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think I thought about this scenario, but somehow I don't know. I thought I had this less than equal to, and I think I missed that out. So yeah, so this was even if because I remember you mentioned whole numbers, so I wanted to include a test case with 0 as an element as well.
Yeah. So in that scenario, it should probably say pair not found, or I think a better scenario would actually be to print out invalid input list or something of that sort.
Oh, I was talking about the third case when there is 0 and 30, and then the target is 30 itself.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. So 0 would be invalid in this scenario in the input list because in the problem I mentioned that you can assume that the list should be whole positive numbers. So I guess it's kind of a bit of an argument on like kind of what you consider 0. I think generally it's actually considered a placeholder, not a number. It doesn't have positive or negative value. So
you mentioned whole numbers. So whole numbers include 0. Natural numbers start with 1, right?
Yeah, but I mentioned whole. I don't want to get into a debate about it, but yeah, it's fine either way. I think it's definitely there's some gray area, but like I don't think 0 would be included if it's only whole positive numbers.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, it's kind of You're right. I think I just thought about whole, and not really.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, it's my fault actually. I for those kinds of things, interviewers should actually I should have just made a note in like the comment area at the bottom. So that's my fault. That's okay.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't have to code out that specific case. But I think this is good. Can I talk to you kind of my feedback about the interview?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah, cool. So what I really liked was you came up with a solution fast. You have a very error-free solution. You wrote out the test case as well, and I like that you refactored the code well so that you kind of have two methods here. So there's a get some target that does kind of core functionality, and then you have a helper method for the tests, and then you actually it's very clean to see print pairs 5 in a row. So some errors I see there that people, they try and do the printing part, they repeat the printing part in the main method, and they would just call get some target each time. Some people actually put them together, which is okay in some scenarios, but here it's actually better in this kind of interview scenario, it's better to kind of put the get some target on its own and then have print pairs, because that kind of shows you understand the abstraction idea of this, that we should just have a print pairs that should be pretty dumb about what it's doing besides print pairs. It should call in to get some target. So those are good things. One thing I noticed is you clarified kind of as you were coding out the problem, what should happen in the invalid case. So I think those questions and kind of kinks are good to iron out before you start the coding. Because generally the interviewer is most impressed when you know exactly all the edge cases and how you're going to structure the whole thing before you start the code. That's one thing I would note. Besides that, honestly, there wasn't really anything else that stuck out to me as something to comment on at the end. So yeah, really good job. I thought it was a good interview.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
ask
definitely.
you about the interviewing methodology that you use and how it works in your company?
Sorry, I didn't catch the last part. The connection's a bit shaky.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. I was just asking, can I ask you a few more questions about your interviewing methodology and how it really works in your own company?
Yeah, definitely. I'm totally open to questions.
Sure. So, is this like a standard question that you would ask when you conduct interviews in your company?
This kind of problem, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this kind of problem would be good for several reasons. One thing is, you can actually see, this would be probably like a straight, algorithmic questions. We do other things here, like kind of design interview and bug squash, but this would be very good for weeding out the candidates who don't actually know well how to code. So this helps us see that they can actually think about the syntax the right way, they can pay attention to detail, they have some knowledge of data structure, so it can immediately weed out, 20 to 30% candidates who don't really have the CS fundamentals grounded in. And then the other nice thing about this problem specifically is with the print pair stuff at the end of the problem, it gives you a good insight into, one, how well do they refactor the code for like a testing scenario. So the whole idea of separation of concern, so you have things in different components that are easier to test independently. And then two, also you can see if they can actually think through edge cases and the different, possible outcomes. In the actual interview here, for example, we would probably ask something like, I would probably be asking more parts to this question and kind of digging in deeper into things, because it would probably be like an hour, slightly over an hour kind of interview. But for the scope of what we do on this site, I think this is a good scope, and it gets a good amount of knowledge on the candidate. So, yeah, it's definitely valid in software industry for this kind of question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question was good. So do you make a distinction when you're interviewing candidates for, let's say, technical screening versus on-site interviews? You were saying earlier that it really helps you weed out 20 to 30% of the candidates. So do you bring this question on the technical screen more often as you would rather than for the on-site interviews?
Yeah, so this would be a good phone screen question for the algorithmic part, but then a big part of the other part of the phone screen would also be, since we'll know kind of the specific position the candidate's coming in for, right? So me specifically, I do mobile development in Android and iOS, so I will also ask a lot of heavy mobile questions. So, does this person understand Android framework, platform, newest trends, Java? So there's going to be a lot of one-off kind of, 2-minute discussion questions also. And that is supplemented by this on the computer to see that they understand how to code and, think through edge cases, that sort of thing.
Okay, sounds good. And you mind me asking, you don't have to tell me the name of the company that you work for, but basically, is it a small setup, is it a startup, or is it a much bigger company, public company?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So since I've been here, it's gone from startup to small company, but we've kept kind of the interviewing practices the same. So it's under 100 people.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, that's pretty much all that you wanted to ask. Cool. Thanks for the interview. Cool. This was really good. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, most definitely, and I'm glad it was helpful for you. Cool.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye.